yards.
Now, why were they digging out? Because we're talking about 10.5 feet of snow that fell this week. And Jen, you were there covering everything from start to finish.
It's so much snow, 10 feet of snow. I mean, even in the mountains, right? Blizzard conditions. And by the end of our assignment, we were nearly snowed in. Snowbanks were taller than me. So here's a look at our journey back down through the Sierra. It is day 5 of this blizzard in the Sierra. Piles of snow around me here in Truckee. We are finally going to leave, but I got to show you what I'm walking through just to get out to the car in the front desk. It is a canyon of snow. We are at elevation 6,000 feet. We're still climbing, and we've kind of passed the point of no return. That left lane still looks a little icy. You can see trucks lined up in both directions. I'm not sure if they're checking for chains, but there's plenty of police presence. We are dropping out below 6,000 feet, so we're in the 90 to 100-inch snowfall range. We've made it up, and now it will be about getting back down. Road conditions do look better here. It still looks like snow as far as the eye can see, but it's amazing how much of a difference elevation makes. There's still a ton of snow right here, but it's definitely a lot less than we had at the peak. We're now down to about 2,900 feet, and while there's not a lot of snow here, there's still snow, and it's pretty impressive that a Pacific storm brought snow below 3,000 feet. This was a cold one.
Wow.
They're going to study this one. We all are going to study this one. It was very interesting. It was a system, a big trough, and a strong jet stream that just sat here for 4 days.
Speaking of the strong jet stream, I mean, we saw wind reports on top of some of the peaks, nearly 200 miles per hour.
190 at Palisades of Tahoe. 190.
And that's just where we have instrumentation. So the argument could be made that in some locations, high peaks could have stronger than 190.
I think that's right.
I mean,
mind-numbing.
The wind, and I'll describe the wind in the way I described the blizzard, is that it came in burst. So we had burst of blizzard. It wasn't nonstop. I mean, at 8,000 feet, yes, it probably was pretty nonstop blizzard. But for me, at 5,800 feet, you'd get into blizzard conditions, but only for maybe 15, 20 minutes. You'd have a whiteout, but then it would improve, and then it would get bad again, and then it would improve.
That's actually really, it matches up well with when we were watching the storm move in on the satellite pictures. There was a lot of convection over the water, over the cold water of the Pacific, telling us that the atmosphere was unstable. And so when that unstable air moved over the complex terrain of California near areas nearby, there was a lot of convective activity inside of the overall storm. So that probably led to some of the episodic nature that you're talking about.
It's very interesting to me, and Cantori and I talked about this extensively as it was going on, why the interstate was not shut down earlier on the Nevada side or, say, over towards Sacramento. Because, I mean, it just seems, I know that there were vehicles stuck there. It seems like that should never been the case in the first place.
Well, you know, look, it's difficult. There's a lot of commerce that happens, you know, because of Interstate 80. And, you know, I definitely feel for the truck drivers who are trying to get through here. And you sort of have to make the call at when it's most likely safe. So they had shut it down for a little bit Friday afternoon because of multiple spinouts. And then they had to shut it down for good because there was too much snow coming down here. But this storm, I think, was challenging for forecasting. It was a little slow to ramp up. So initially, the rain to snow ratios, it was more wet. And that's maybe it wasn't fluffing up as much. So you weren't getting as big totals from the beginning as we were expecting because of that.
And you mentioned some of the local community there had experienced something like this before. It doesn't happen every year, obviously, but it, you know, I would say we'll call it uncommon, right? When was the last time they saw something like this?
Right. And so when you talk to the locals, like they say we get snow, and last year was an incredibly snowy year, and December 2020 was an incredibly snowy December. But when you look at one particular storm, and I looked at the data, you have to go back to 2005.
Wow.
To see a storm for Truckee that produces 4 feet of snow.
So it's been almost 20 years.
Yeah, so this is not the kind of single storm that you get very often.
Tip of the cap to Caltrans. It's amazing to see the great work they did, almost surgical, to see the line of where snow was cut out. But as you mentioned, you were still in the 20s. Even when it was clear, you had ice issues on the road.
Yeah,
right?
so we left about 7 a.m., and I know the road looked like maybe it was wet. It wasn't wet. It was still icy. I mean, it was...
Wow.
You know, you climb elevation. We went up another 1,000 feet plus from where I was, and it was in the 20s. It was cold.
That's a great story, great adventure.
There's much more we could talk about. I want to talk about the lightning. I want to talk about the grapple. I mean, we'll have more discussion this morning.
We're gonna cover it all. Hey, let's get you out the door. This is going to be in Carmel, Indiana, which again, Postel, it's one of our favorite towns.
Yeah, probably my second favorite.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Next to Macon?
It's right up there.
I think so. I think we're close. We're close.
Yeah, but I mean, there are times I'll call Postel. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll say, dude,
What's going
you want to
on?
talk about Carmel again? I said,
Yeah.
yes, Carmel. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Well,
We do.
it is known as the Roundabout City, 140 roundabouts across the city, and also home to the first electronic automated traffic signals in the state. Interesting.
This is why it's number 2.
Are these fun facts enough to make it best in state? Tune in tomorrow at 9:40 Eastern as we crown the best of Indiana.
For over 50 years, Purina Cat Chow has been helping cats feel at home with trusted